This. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of 4th and 15 with Mel and Smooth. I am Mel. Joining me always is Ronnie, Big Smooth Hennigan. Smooth, what's up, man?
Not a whole lot, Mel. You know, long weekends, man. A very wacky weekend in football in general. Uh, Half of these games, I don't even know where to start, how to explain. But man, I'm excited, man. I'm just glad it's back. What about you?
Yeah, I noticed you got your Georgia gear on, but we're gonna leave that alone. We'll leave that alone. I can't. I don't even want to talk about this weekend. I don't even want to talk about Saturday. I say that.
All
But
right, that's fair. That's
to
fair.
answer your question, weekend was pretty good, man. We got the win over at Brooklyn.
Hmm.
Uh, Once again, Eddie went off. Shout out to Eddie Lewis. Went over. I think it was 250, 252, something along those lines. We was rolling, man. It was 33-0 at halftime, and we ended up winning 47-13.
Nice.
And I became a grandparent again.
Ooh, what's up, man?
This
Congrats.
morning, this morning, Diva had pups. She gave birth to a litter of six. Unfortunately, two didn't make it, but the four
Hmm.
are doing well, and Mom and Diva's doing well. So uh, it's been a long morning, a long day.
Man, that's a lot going on
But
there,
before
bro.
yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. Four new fur babies, and it's just it's killing me. But we gonna make it. We gonna be all right. It was just a surprise. I was I'm like, I know she's gonna come, she's gonna pop them
Hmm.
out, but I didn't know when, and turn out it was this morning. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was deep.
He was busy.
Before we go any further, the show is brought to you in part by Box Bands. Strength through resistance. Resistance is key. What's the other one? Oh yeah, Kofifi for me. I'm still drinking on this coffee, man. Like I don't want to say it's addictive, but I ain't drank coffee like this in a long time, bro. In a long time.
Hey, that's how it be, man.
So
Something as good as the good caffeine, you know what I'm saying? That'll get you
yeah,
the show, you know.
yeah.
But
So yeah, I can't complain.
that's good.
All right. So first things first. We did our inaugural Senate game of the week. It was John Adams versus Lincoln West. The stream was not the greatest, but we got through it. For those of you guys that caught it, for those that didn't, John Adams did beat Lincoln West 50-0. Um, they took back John Adams took back two punt returns for touchdowns. The defense got a score. They literally
Hmm.
scored on all three phases: offense, defense, and special teams. Uh, Lincoln West, it's a new program, so we can't say anything. It's not a new program, but it's a new regime over there.
True.
They'll get it together. They'll get it together. Coach Jackson, he was just happy to be on the field as far as John Adams was concerned. We all were. They took a year off, which I thought was a big mistake, but because we have no say in that, it's something we had to get used to, not seeing and not talking about as of last year. But they're back on the field, and it was a very quick game. It was a very quick game. Some other scores from that. Rhodes destroyed John Hay 36-0, I believe.
Ooh.
And here's a shocker for Rhodes has a good squad over there, man. Rhodes got a really good squad this year. Don't get it twisted. The last couple of years, John Hay's been doing pretty good, but this
Hmm.
Rhodes team, if they keep staying consistent, they might pose a threat to at least, excuse me, maybe second place in the Senate this year. They might shoot for a state playoff bid. You never know. You never know. And here's a shocker for you. Our good old alma mater, Collinwood, dog walks JFK, 48-16.
Oh my goodness. Now that
Yeah,
I love to hear. I love to hear that.
yeah,
Kenny used
yeah,
to give us problems, man.
man, issues like for no reason. And it was crazy too, because while they were announcing it over the PA during the
Hmm.
John Adams game, I kept checking with the PA announcer, like, "Are you sure? You sure you got the? I know you said the score, but you got the teams right.
Right.
Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, that's the score. That's the update I'm getting. Collinwood, such and such, John F. Kennedy." And then once the game was over, I was packing up everything and getting ready to head over to my school. And next thing I know, he was like, "Yeah, it's a final, 48-16 Collinwood." I was like, "Ooh wee,
Man, shout out to
ooh,
the
it's going,
Railroaders, man, for that one.
yeah." Hey, and you know what? Speaking of railroaders and speaking of the game of the week, we'll get into that right now. Uh, this weekend, game of the week will be Collinwood versus the Ville. So it'll be the Wood versus the Ville this week at Bump Taylor at 4 p.m. We will redo this announcement Wednesday night when we do the pregame show for the Senate League. But that's the game of the week this week, baby. Everybody coming out the woodwork for that one.
Man, that's always going to be a game. The thing is, like, it's funny because regardless of the status of each program, uh, it's just so much history there. It's
Mm-hmm.
one of those things where people are always going to try to, show up and show out and just show support or come by to see, what's going on with the programs, whether it's like past coaches, past players, current, students, whatever. It's always one that people tend to, turn up for. So
Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm hoping that, of course, we get that dub, what I'm saying, on our end, obviously,
That illustrious, elusive dub.
so that's always
Yeah,
good to
we
see when
have
they do get
yeah. Um, I'm excited, to be honest. I'm excited for this one. I don't know why. I just am. Hey, everybody, most of the Senate is starting off on a good foot, which is a good thing. And I think
one.
the rest of the Senate is going to come along, and it's going to be something to where it'll be something to talk about in a good
Right.
in a good light in a good light.
I kind of feel like, too, these teams right now, may be matched up a lot better than people think this season. And I think that's what gives a lot of excitement, too, for those of us who went through those programs and, know what they've seen and what they've done in the past and whatnot before us, when we were there, after us a little bit, and to see where they are now, it's kind of like, okay, even though the glory of certain schools may not still be there, that tradition always stands still, man. It's still strong. It's
Yeah,
something that we can build on, obviously. And I think it's going to be more of a banger than people think. I know in past years it was always kind of like, lopsided or whatever, but I think it'll be more balanced this time around. So we'll see what the outcome is come up this week.
yeah. I'm thinking the same thing too. I'm also feeling like you know the way Rhodes is played because you hardly let's look at reality.
Hmm.
Traditionally, we hardly ever talk about a West Side team, and we haven't. I'll say we haven't talked about it in a while. That we
True.
see a West Side team doing well. You know, 2019, John Marshall wins the Senate City Championship. No play. No, was it? No, it was 2018. Excuse me, 2018. Uh, 2019, it goes back to I believe it went to John Hay, I believe, and then 2020, no game, no season. 2021's looking real. It's looking real unpredictable this year.
Yeah, man. You know, it's out there for grabs at this
Yeah,
point.
I
You
really
know,
feel like that, and I know people don't agree with that because true, yes, Glenville has been the king of the mountain for so long, but this year I have a strong feeling there are going to be a lot of surprise teams and a lot of surprise upsets.
And for those that aren't aware, right, of the setup this year, didn't we talk about how with the divisions the way they're set up that there could be multiple appearances in the playoffs
Yeah,
from the
yeah.
Senate?
From everybody, truth be told, but the Senate more so than not because there's at least one team in at least five divisions.
Hmm.
There's at least one team in at least five divisions. I know a couple are. I know Glenville's Division 3, I believe, and the rest are either Division 4 or lower. But even
Hmm.
so, that's still, that gives everybody a shot to make it in each division.
Man, that's exciting to hear. I know at one point in time it felt like we were majority Division 1, and then we had a couple of D2s. I think like East High was D2 at the time when we were in school, and then we only had one D3, which I think was either South or Tech. I forget which was the D3 when we were playing, but that was
And
it
even,
because everybody's primarily D1 at the time, and
yeah,
John Adams
yeah,
wasn't even open yet.
yeah.
You know,
Now just imagine if all these teams were back around that time, just how competitive it would have been.
oh no, for sure, man, because you figure all those people that you see at Kennedy, that's all split now because you got some at Kennedy, some at John Adams because of the area where they're located. But when John Adams was closed, man, that was a pipeline. Everybody was going to Kennedy in that area. If
Yeah,
you lived anywhere near MLK Drive, you was going to Kennedy. Unless you were like closer to Miles or something or Broadway area, then you'd probably be going to South High.
hmm
But it was majority Kennedy, man. And then you figure if you live like near where I was at, near Cedars, 71st, and all of that, you probably was going to end up being at Tech or maybe East High, depends on what you wanted to do. But they were trying to force me to go to MLK, which I'm like, no, that's not happening. So I was happy to catch them 3 buses to go to Collinwood, man, because you had that option back then to do
yeah,
all of that.
yeah.
So it's a decision I, never regret. I feel like it was the right decision, especially when it came to like all the exposure we got, football and various things like that, all the different sports. Um, so it just made sense, man. But yeah, I'm excited to see like what this season does hold. I feel like you said, when it's so spread across, there's a chance where okay, you have your state playoffs, and then you got maybe the top
They've been
team isn't in the
expanded.
championship. Maybe
Yeah,
they're doing their playoff thing, so some other teams get a chance to get their hands on that title. You know what I mean?
hmm
It's wide open like that. So I'm excited, man. I can't wait to see what happens.
man. I'm I'm just ready to see what develops. Okay. I caught this. I didn't think it was true, but I did my research.
Oh,
Did you happen to see I don't know, a Tito Ortiz and Silva boxing match?
oh yeah, those what's it called? Thriller or something like that. It do. So here's the funny part about that, right? I slipped up on that because at first I didn't think it was real, you
It
know.
was real.
And I'm like,
It was real.
why are these older fighters like having this big event? You know what
I
I'm
don't know.
saying?
They
And
need to
Trump was
stop.
like commentating or whatever, and it was just all over the place, right? So I'm thinking, okay, you got Anderson Silva knocking out Tito. Then
Man, it
then you
it
have
was
Vitor fighting Holyfield, which was like
it destroys
Vitor
him.
Belfort in the first round, the first round. So I'm
Man,
like,
it was
all
like
right, there's that, you know. I kept thinking like they just going down memory lane with all these cats, right?
no, this it's
And
going down suicide lane because
oh
these
man,
guys shouldn't even be in the they shouldn't even be in the ring no more, man. Like
bruh,
with the exception of the Roy Jones Tyson thing, which I thought
yeah,
was entertaining until Tyson flashed back to like whatever fight he was thinking about
man,
and
he was ready.
was out for blood. You know, I was I, I don't think these fights need to keep going because somebody gonna mess around and get hurt for real, and then what? But to see Silva like knock out Tito,
Hmm.
I I I, I wanted to laugh, but then I felt bad at the same time because one, Tito is one of my favorite MMA people of all time. Two, they way past their prime. Like
Way
just
past.
just go just I'm not telling them what to do. I just feel like this should have been a situation where you guys make it an exhibition, a real exhibition.
Yeah,
Put on the headgear, put on the body gear, you know, and just make it entertaining. Why are y'all trying to kill each other at 50, 52?
it just didn't make. So okay, this is where it hit me weird because I was like seeing these names and I'm going, okay, this fight card is just loaded with a bunch of random dudes, right? And I'll be honest, like, is this something that you even heard of before? Like, is this the first time
No,
this has happened, or it's like a debut of something? Because
it
I've
was
never
bad.
heard of that at all, bro. Seriously,
It was
never heard of
it
it.
was bad. It was bad. And I didn't know what to think of it, but for now, I'm gonna leave it alone. But we will keep an eye on whatever develops off of this next.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
that was crazy. Yeah, it was.
I mean, because I guess, oh, okay, I remember now. All right, this makes sense. So I wasn't aware that Triller was the ones that brought us the Mike Tyson Roy Jones fight. So
Mm,
with that and like the whole Jake Paul Nate Robinson, I guess that makes
it
more
should have
sense
never
now.
happened.
Right? Just who you telling? Who you telling, man? You know?
Man, look, that was just bad.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, a little baseball update while we got the time. Big brother versus little brother. The Yankees are up on the Mets 2-1, 2-0 in the
Mm.
first, bottom of the first, and the Yankees been looking good, man. I get the records and everything, but it's the Yankees, which is never gonna be like a very very bad abysmal year for them.
True.
I'm 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 hoping since the Indians couldn't do anything this year, I'm hoping the Yankees do something, especially with Jeter going into the Hall. So,
That
you
was pretty
know,
big, man. I was like, it's about time.
it was about time for a couple of guys, but to me, the biggest one was, Jeter. And Jeter,
Hmm.
you hardly ever hear about him outside of the J Lo thing. Uh, you hardly ever heard about him doing anything bad, really.
True.
Uh, he was a clutch performer. He was there when you needed him with either a hit, a out, something that was big. So for him to get in, that was awesome. So hoping that my backup team being the Yankees, I hope they take care of the Mets and ride this wave on into the playoffs.
Me too, man. I mean, it's funny because with the Indians, like we said, Saturday was just a terrible day for sports. It felt like overall, and to see the Indians give up a no hitter, I was like, oh my gosh, man, what is happening right now? Everybody just falling apart, on the same day. I was like, golly, no hitter though. I was like, come on, man. Like, it's one thing to get blanked, 3-0, but a no hitter, man, you couldn't get a bunt or something, one little
Man,
chip to the opposite side of the mound or
it,
something, man.
it's it's I don't think this was a COVID thing. I think this was all
No,
due to I think this had to do with all of the Guardian stuff, the name change stuff going on.
man.
And as much as I don't like it, I think they should have waited for this announcement at least to the end of the season because
Mm-hmm.
to me this turned into a big distraction. Like
Oh, for sure.
fans want to come, then they don't want to come because now you didn't change the name, can't wear Indian stuff at the stadium. It's just real it's just a real cluster bomb right now, and
Yeah,
I don't think organization took that into consideration doing this during the season, no matter when it was. I just don't think they made a conscious decision on that part.
I think that's what got me too, man. Because you figure you didn't wait to the end of the year, you didn't wait until at least the regular season to be done or something, you know. And then to be in the midst of all of that, and of course we've had previous shows talking about you know the changes that have happened around different sports and whatnot as far as the names and stuff. And yeah, it's like I have a lot of mixed feelings about it in general. Um, and then doing away with certain things kind of like led up to it. So you figure, when they changed the official logo, and then when they had, got rid of the slider and all these other
Oh
changes
man,
were happening with that
that
hurt
broke
me,
my
man.
heart,
It's like,
man.
yeah, because for me, it was like, we grew up with that, and then like it's something
And
that I
Slider
need
ain't
to be
even
able
do
to
nothing
show
to
my kid.
nobody.
He ain't do nothing. Like, how is he offensive? Is he offensive? No, he's not. But like just seeing, that happen, I wanted to be able to show my kids that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like to take them to a game and then be like, hey,
Can't
let's be
even do it.
square. You know what I'm saying? You can't even do it. You know what I mean?
Can't
And
even do it.
there was nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having him around, man. And when I first saw that, I was like, oh, I said something about to happen. I don't know what. Something
Yeah,
about
man.
to happen
Slider ain't did nothing to nobody, man. Slider been around for years.
for years, bro.
He
If
don't get
anything,
no
he had
kind of
comedic relief.
he don't get no kind of love. He don't get
No,
nothing.
not
Not
even
a
a little
ride
bit.
off into the sunset. Not a sympathy card. Not a severance package. None of that.
Now, because I'm a big nerd, and I forgot to mention this last segment. So when you talk about MMA, talk about boxing and whatnot. I don't know if you heard about this yet, but there's a game that just dropped called Big Rumble Boxing Creed
No,
Champions.
no.
Yeah, I'm gonna
No,
send
I
you
have.
this later, man. It features literally all the characters from the Rocky series.
Oh Jesus.
Oh man, it's like 20 something fighters. It has some of the new people too from like the new two Creed movies or whatever. So it has
Hmm.
all that stuff lumped in, all the class stuff that we grew up on, that we watched. Everything's in this. So I'm gonna send you this though,
I might have to. Now
because
that
you
you
know
say
me.
that,
Good,
I'm
come Black Friday, I'm getting that. That's how I roll,
okay.
man. Black Friday, I get
All
all my
right.
stuff for the year. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna be on my list. I'm telling you right now. I'm gonna send you that later.
All right. I'm gonna be looking for it.
Cool.
All right. Part one of kickoff weekend. Buckeyes lose to them damn Ducks. Uh, I I'm not gonna say it was a bad game. I'm gonna say that my expectations might have dropped a little bit on Ohio State, given that watching that game, there were no adjustments made for the simple things that Oregon was running. And most
Mm-hmm.
of it was a run to the boundary side. For those that don't know what the boundary side is running to the short side of the field.
Mm-hmm.
And me being the Buckeye fan that I am, I'm trying to figure out why they didn't fix this. Uh, but they always say on ESPN and College Game Day, if you lose early, you still got a chance. So the Buckeyes still have a chance to make the playoff, depending on how the
Mm-hmm.
rest of the season plays out. CJ Stroud is not he's not looking bad. He's not the quarterbacks of the past, but his quarterbacks of the past, he's here for a reason. So he won the job for a reason. So we're gonna my judgment on him is still out just because,
Mm-hmm.
you know, first game you were supposed to win. I mean, I get it. Don't get me wrong. Minnesota's a great team, but traditionally that's a team you're supposed to beat. Now this Oregon team, I think most of those guys, if not the new guys, knew what was going on and knew what they were getting into. So
Mm-hmm.
losing to Ohio State is wasn't on their to do list.
with that game, like you said, those adjustments that need to be made. Because when I was watching a couple of replays of some of the touchdowns, they scored on the same run play 3 times,
Mm-hmm.
same TD, same play. You know, um, and that kind of scared me too, because I kind of felt like I don't think it was a miss in terms of talent. I just felt
Yeah.
like they got out coached. They got out coached. Um, and on top of that, man, I don't really know OSU to struggle with run defense, which
Right. That was my
kind of hit
other
me
thing.
weird. I was like, run D issues, like when did that happen? You know what I'm saying? So that
And
was
this
weird.
is Dre. This is exactly why you get banned from the show. Like this is exactly why. You know what? You know what, Dre? You know what? Since you were such an Ohio State hit, catch one of these.
Oh man, come on, man.
I'm just saying, man. Like it's still early. Like everybody's gonna lose one. And speaking of losses, Saturday night, the Southern Heritage Classic was about, and if pitted head coaches and former NFL players, Deion Sanders or Coach Prime, excuse me, and Eddie George. Uh, Unfortunately for Coach Eddie, once again he came out on the losing end, but uh, they got to get that quarterback situation figured out. They got to. Um, I don't know if it's I don't know if it's Bryant or if it's Hickbottom, but last night Bryant showed a lot more grit and made plays down the stretch. I can't give judgment on him either on Tennessee State either, not at this point because
Hmm.
one, it's a new team and they're pretty much going through the dual quarterback situation that Ohio State went through back in the late '90s with Jermaine and Stanley Jackson. So what I will say is defensively from the Grambling State game, which was the Hall of Fame Classic, to the Southern Heritage Classic, they looked a lot better. They looked a lot better. The only problem with that was they saw a young man in the name of Shadir Sanders
Mm.
who was ready to play. He was ready to play. Shadir threw, I think, 2 touchdowns, and he looked good, man. The SWAC is going to be real competitive, and a lot of people are going to not expect this to happen. But if you pay attention to these 2 games that Eddie and Grambling State and Jackson State and Florida A&M last 2 weeks ago, it's
Hmm.
going to look real competitive in the SWAC. If nowhere else, it's going to look real competitive in the SWAC.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. And then speaking of which, so Coach Prime made a comment. He was talking about, I guess asking about the jersey names, why people
Oh
don't have
yeah,
their name on the
yeah,
back of the jersey and whatnot. And I feel like that was a great, discussion. Because my thing is, we're at a time now where the notoriety is getting there, it's growing, right?
hmm
I do understand traditionally there's a few things that don't change or things that have always been a certain way, you know. But I think it's time for that. I feel like especially if you're considered like a Division 1, you team, that has to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to have those names there. These guys, they invested their time just as much as school invested into them to be there to play,
hmm
represent them. And I feel like, especially with players trying to gain that notoriety or with them now having the potential to have the money made off of their likeness, the least you could do would be able to put the name on the back. Now, I get if you want to
yeah,
sell a jersey, right? And you're like, okay, let's just do a number 7, whatever, it's blank, I don't know. But when it comes to that game time, recognition, man, it needs to happen. I mean, you're going to say their name 100 times during the damn game anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what's the
You're
point of
right.
not having the name
You're
on the
right.
back? I just never got that. I really did, especially at that level.
Well, Well, I don't think that was a school thing. I think that was more of an NCAA thing. You know, they want to protect that loophole where you're a student athlete, yet you're helping bring in millions of dollars
Hmm.
for the NCAA, for the school that you represent, and to line your coach's pockets. Now, don't
Right.
get me wrong, it's not all the coach's fault. You know, they're there to just coach, they're there to recruit, you know, build a winning program. So I'm not going to hold that all completely against them.
Hmm.
But Coach Prime has a point, you know. And he said he'll take care of it for the rest of the SWAC. So, you know, I get where he's going with this. It changes, especially at that level, changes do need to be made. If not right now, soon.
True.
And uh, I just feel like I see where this is going. I just hope the NCAA doesn't try to cock block this. And I hate to use that word, but you know how the NCAA is. If they find a way to shut it down, they'll shut it down.
Oh no, for sure, man. Um, and speaking of Saturday, um, so one
Wacky
of the most
Saturday.
very wacky Saturday. I mean, some of these games, man, were just crazy. Like, I honestly thought Toledo's gonna pull it off
Man,
against Notre Dame. That game was
man,
nuts, back and
what?
forth, like trading off. I was like, and
Can
y'all
you
are in South Bend doing that? In South
can you
Bend?
imagine if Toledo would have pulled that off? I think Toledo going back to Notre Dame next year.
Man, I feel like they
I
need
think they're
to.
going
I
back.
feel like, this reminded me of the Toledo of the 2000s, man. Like they were like the top 25 killers back then.
Yeah,
And
I remember that.
I'll never forget when they knocked off, Pittsburgh when they were in the top 10, when they came to Toledo and they had Larry Fitzgerald, man, his
And
Heisman year.
can
That
you
was,
imagine? Can you imagine if that would have happened? How bad South Bend would have burned to the ground?
man, that would have been the worst thing ever.
Man,
Like you would never hear the
touchdown,
last of that.
touchdown! Jesus would have been on some trash.
Oh, it'd have been done for. And when you talk about people screwing up the playoffs, man, that would have put
Man,
the biggest wrench in it. Because I mean, you figure, okay, I get it. People were like, okay, week one, you saw LSU go down, and then you saw like North Carolina
Ohio State.
and all of that. Now you got the OSU this week because the Pac-12 is out here like, look, y'all wrote us off. Okay, week one we showed you something. Week two we showed you
Hmm.
something. It's almost like, okay, what y'all got next week? I'm pulling the schedule now because I'm sitting here like I don't know what to expect at this point. I have no
I
idea
don't
what to
either.
expect.
I don't either.
Everything's
But you
all
know
over the
what?
place.
Yeah, but you know what? Like here's the crazy thing. While everybody's thinking about what the Pac-12 is doing, did you happen to catch the Arkansas Texas game?
Oh yes, that's another one, man. Arkansas was like, look, man, we
That
here,
was a
we
if,
came to play. Y'all slept on
if
us.
yeah, and for those watching,
Mm,
uh, this is a traditionally old rivalry. This goes back to I think it was the Big Eight and the Southwest
mm,
Conference.
long.
Right before I think it was more of the Southwestern Conference, right before the Big 12 came into fruition. So you saw this kind of matchup between Texas and Arkansas quite a few times. And I honestly thought Texas had enough to get it done, but clearly they didn't.
Hmm.
And my other question about this is with Texas about to join the SEC with Oklahoma, what does that do for confidence going into this league when you lose to Arkansas, who hasn't really been a dominant force in the SEC in a long time?
Let's just say I find it to be very humbling, and not only humbling, but that was enough to put Arkansas in the top 25. They are number 20 currently. Um, yeah, man, that was it was humbling. Let me just say that because nobody expected it,
No,
and
no.
to see these teams jump back up in here that haven't been in the top 25 for a while or who haven't been getting a lot of national recognition at all. To see that happen was just like, oh, okay, now we got this like big flip going on, right? And it's only been a couple of weeks. I get that. We'll actually see a full season this year, which is cool too. And it's just one of those things that make you think, like, okay, every Saturday expect something different, right?
Yeah,
And just looking at the way it's panned out right now, just to give people what we're talking about. So you figure the whole top 10 has been flipped around, right?
hmm
Georgia and Alabama stay at 1 and 2, and then you have Oregon jumps up or whatever. So I just saw them. They're at number 4. Oh, um,
that
wow.
was a
Okay,
big win, man.
that was it,
That
yeah,
was a
but
big
like
that was a big win in a big
Oregon
time game.
4.
Think about this before you
Ooh,
start beating up. Wait, hear me out. Before you start beating up, the rankings and everybody who's been in the rankings or who has anything to do with it. Think about this. That was a big win in a big stadium against a team you generally don't do really good against. Remember the last two times Oregon has played Ohio State? Oregon's been on the shit end of that.
yeah,
The
especially
Rose
in the playoff.
Bowl, yeah, the Rose Bowl and the first national championship, the first playoff national championship. So the last two times you've been up against Ohio State, you've gotten your pretty much got your ass kicked both times. They weren't. This was a rubber match. Well, not necessarily a rubber match, but this was a all right. Let's see what you're gonna do now that this alliance has been formed.
Hmm. I can see that.
This alliance has been formed between the Big Ten, the Pac-12, and the ACC, where more Big Ten, Pac-12, and ACC games will be scheduled. So, I expect to see Oregon or Ohio State a couple more times in the regular season because normally that's a game you wouldn't see till the playoff, maybe the national championship or some big time bowl game like the Rose Bowl.
True, that makes sense. And
So yeah, so don't be too hard on the rankings because that was a let's call it what it is. That was a win Oregon needed.
oh no, for sure. I mean, that gives that acknowledgement that they've been looking for. They definitely feel like they are the team to beat in the Pac-12 right now. And a lot of them are kind of moving up, moving around, making their name known first couple of weeks. And then seeing the emergence of Iowa has been pretty exciting as well. Um, you know, they were showing signs of it last year. They built on that. Indiana's kind of taking a step back, it looks like, and they got to play, this weekend against who is it, Cincinnati. That game's coming up, which now I'm like
Mm.
not as excited for as I was earlier before the season started. But we'll see what happens with that 12 o'clock game in Indiana. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But I don't know, man. Ain't looking too bright for them. And then looking at some of these other matchups, I guess the game of the week I would say would be Bama and Florida because everything else seems a
Yeah,
little lopsided looking at it.
yeah,
Um,
you knew that was coming. We knew that was
so
coming.
yeah, I mean, I will say this: to see these matchups this early in the season is what we needed because a
Oh
lot of
man.
times during the first few weeks, you always got like that one big game for prime time or like that one game that comes on
Hmm.
like at 4:30, whatever, and then you have some other game at 12. And you're like, okay, cool, that's the three games that matter this weekend. Everybody else is like playing some team that don't match up really on paper, or
Right.
you got your FBS, FCS matchups, whatever. But this year, it's like we kicking off the season with these big games. You got conference games happening week 1. Week 2, you got these
Hmm.
interconference games against teams
Yeah.
that normally wouldn't play each other until bowl week or, some kind of matchup like that. They're getting a week 2 game, and so it's just cool to be able to see it, man. And what it does is that those first 2 weeks, I feel like it gives you confidence in some of these other teams to go into these games and go, okay, I seen you struggle a little bit against so and so last week. That does something for me, coming into this week. Or just in general to see like this shakeup where you've got a lot of these MAC schools playing some of these bigger schools first few weeks
Mm-hmm.
now. You've got some teams that look more evenly matched that may or may not, be one we would have watched before that could be exciting. Like one for you, I would say right now would be like the Duke Northwestern game. I would say the Toledo Colorado State game is one to check out.
You really trust
Also,
Duke and Northwestern, man? Come
yeah,
on.
this year,
I
this year.
wouldn't.
I mean,
I wouldn't. I
North,
still got my money
I,
on Carolina in that one. If this if this was a academic challenge, Carolina goes down smooth. They going down no problem. But this is football, maybe basketball in the ACC Big Ten challenge. So I'm expecting Carolina to go steamroll Northwestern on this, and I'm sorry.
yeah, I mean Northwestern. Yeah, they don't look like the. Of course, they had a big little off season, right? You know what I'm saying?
Man,
Big off season for them. For them, we always talked about how they'll have like this really good season, and then it's just like right back
mm-hmm.
down again. And next thing you know, 5 years later, they come back out of nowhere. You're like, oh, okay,
Make it to the
who's
Rose
this team?
Bowl. Like,
Yeah, you're like, really? It's just not consistent. So,
you know
um,
what? Speaking, because I know you brought FCS up. Speaking of FCS, did you see the Florida State Jacksonville State game?
yes, that was amazing. That
Did
was
you see the
awesome.
ending?
That was awesome. That was awesome.
Man, I
I was
sat
all
there
for
in
it.
I sat there in such amazement. I could not understand what happened. Like, how do you not make that tackle?
I was all for it, man. Hey, I was like, here we go. Here we go. Let's see what happens. I was standing up, staring at the screen, tripping. I'm like,
Man,
oh, maybe this happens. I don't know. Maybe it happens. I don't know. I don't know. When he let that
bruh,
ball go,
I
I was like,
sat there, I sat there and screamed at the TV, and I
it
don't
was
even
great.
like Florida State like that. I
I don't
don't.
either. I don't
I
either.
don't. But you lose losing in overtime or the last kick to Notre Dame, and then you lose to a team you're supposed to be throttling. Like,
Hmm.
come on, man. What else? What else is? And then you don't see another crappy team per se until what is this? Week three,
Yep, week
four,
three coming
five,
up.
6, 7. You don't see another crappy team until week 7, or what's supposed to be a crappy team. And you
Mm.
see UMass then. So what's gonna happen then? UMass gonna get the last touchdown too? Like, come on, man. Like
Now, okay, here's another one
this is
for you.
bad.
We gonna talk about these, man, because there was a lot of weird football happening tonight. Weird, dude. So here's one for you. What about Texas A&M and Colorado?
Okay,
That
let's
game.
let's
That
okay,
game, though.
let me be clear. I
Mm.
expected that game to look like that. And here's why.
Did you? Okay.
Here here's why. First off, this is not a SEC versus big Pac-12 matchup. This is a Big 12 matchup. We all knew it was a Big 12 matchup. In the
Oh
eyes of
yeah.
the traditionalists, it's
Oh
gonna
yeah.
always be a Big 12 matchup. So
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting nothing no different than a Big 12 game. And I meant what I meant by Big 12 game was this is October 1st, 1996. Texas A&M goes into Colorado. Colorado's on a hot streak. They had a decent offseason, got some good recruits. Texas A&M just got in a good quarterback. So let's see where this plays out. That's what I mean by that. And that's exactly what happened. The only difference is, you know, Texas A&M pulled it out,
Hmm.
and Colorado looked like the Colorado of the late 90s, early 2000s. Uh, just I don't know whether it's the coaching. I don't know if it's not enough recruits.
Hmm.
Whatever the case is, I feel like, and I'm sticking with my guns on this. I feel like Colorado should have never left the Big 12 because they have
Oh yeah,
not been they've not been in a position where they could have a winning season or at least look competitive against certain teams.
for sure.
It's I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like they shouldn't have left. And here it is
No,
that they left. Here it is that they left, and they what have they done? Besides, they've made it to a bowl game once or twice,
yeah,
but
that's
what
about
they
it.
haven't played, they haven't contended for a Pac-12 championship, not even close enough for the division. Like, what's really going on there? Like, this am I alone in this? And I'm not saying you don't agree
Uh,
or disagree, but I just feel like you guys got to know if you're gonna do something like this, you gotta have the guns for that.
and you know
They
what?
don't
I got
have
it.
the guns for this. They don't have the guns for it.
They don't. They don't. And it's just I don't know, man. I just guess for me, the fact that college football is even back and just seeing these matchups, man, it just amazes me to see how this week went. Because I had a few more I was looking at that shocked me. Here's one for you. I forgot that Duquesne had a football team, and then they beat Ohio University at OU.
Yeah,
I was like, okay,
yeah,
so
about
Duquesne has
that.
a football team, and you beat OU, who usually is not like a slouch of a team when it comes to football. 'Cause they have a decent athletic program for a MAC school.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here looking like, y'all lost that game? That's the game
Hey
y'all probably
man.
had on your calendar, like, we're going to win this game. You know what I mean? And then, like, didn't work out that way. So that's another one that hit me. And then here's another one for you. You know, Appalachian State, the way they kind of battle people at the FBS level.
Mm-hmm.
You always know there's that one team that they almost knock off or they close to knocking off. I didn't think they was gonna keep up with Miami like that.
I
That one
did.
shocked me.
Dude, they've been playing that game for the last 5 years in some way. Appalachian got them. I believe Appalachian got them at home one year, and y'all do forget. And I'm not saying you don't remember this, but Appalachian State has been an FCS national champion within the last 20 years. I'll give them 20. It
Oh yeah,
been
for sure.
yeah. So it's not like they're not used to winning. They've beaten Michigan in the Big House.
That was
You
great.
know,
Still great.
never forget that.
Still great. Never forget
Never
that.
forget it. Never
Never,
forget it.
ever,
But
ever.
let's not forget, and it's not if this was the Miami of the late '90s, early 2000s, maybe even the '80s,
Mm-hmm.
early '90s. This game is a this game is a dog walk. And Appalachian State ain't got nothing coming. But two things have happened since those teams of the past have left and came and went. The Orange Bowl is no longer standing.
Yeah.
There's no there's no real power coach at Miami and hasn't been for a long time. So let's throw those two factors in. And as much as I love the Canes, when those two factors are in, it's a problem because now teams know you can be beat.
Mm-hmm.
You watch those 30 for 30s and you watch those teams of the 2000s, nobody wanted to play them teams. Not that
Oh
nobody wanted to
no.
be on the nobody wanted to even step foot on the same field with those Hurricane teams. But this is it's a whole different atmosphere now.
I agree with
And
that.
and Appalachian State is like I said, they're used to winning too. It's not like they can't do it. So, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
And then
But
here's one last.
I will say I was surprised at one game that I watched last night because I thought it was gonna go a different way, but it ended up going the way that I didn't think it would go, and that was the Holy War out in Utah between BYU and Utah. and
Mm,
Utah gets his
mm,
not Utah, but BYU gets his first win over Utah in nine tries. That's a long time. It's a
mm.
long time,
And this is the year after Zach Wilson left.
man.
How about
Man,
that? How
wait,
about
what
that?
was? Here's a stat for
Ooh,
you.
ooh.
Here's a real big stat for you. The last
Mm.
time BYU got a win over Utah, the quarterback's name was Hall. Last name was Hall. This year, when Utah loses to BYU starting quarterback's last name is guess what? Hall. I
The
I
odds of
can't make
that.
this up. I can't make this up. The irony in this is that Hall, he going if his last name is Hall, he gonna get a win over Utah.
Speaking of another history fact, I believe they said with that loss for Florida State, it was their first loss since the FBS FCS split back in the
Oh
70s.
my god, that was like 40 years ago.
Bruh, I was like 78 is 2021. That's the first one? The first one since then?
Mm,
Ooh, I know that hurt, especially for people who are like longtime Seminole fans. That probably
mm.
really burnt.
The
People who
Seminole
actually was
Nation,
there
the
for that,
actual Seminole Nation is getting their spears ready right now.
man, they mad though. That game next week gonna be fire. Just watch. Um, and the
They
last one
playing
that
Wake
really hit
Forest,
me.
so
Oh yeah, they should walk that. But
yeah, I
here's
don't
the
know,
thing.
man. After this week, I'm a little
Well,
nervous.
you know what? That kind of goes back to what I was saying about these teams getting these confidence now, based off of how some of these previous games went going to week three. Just saying. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah.
We'll see.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Now,
I'm nervous. I'm nervous for Florida State now. I'm not
now the
even gonna
last one
sit there and lie. I'm nervous for 'em.
last one I wanted to ask you about was this one. So, because of the rankings, they say it's an upset. Because if you're not ranked or if you're less than ranked, whatever, blah blah blah, right? Stanford beats USC 42-28.
Mm.
Um, Stanford was unranked, USC at 14. I don't know. I I don't know if it was one that I expected to go that way, but I can't say I'm surprised. I feel like Stanford and USC always have butted heads like that.
Hmm.
Regardless of who's on top, it doesn't matter for them two teams. It's always been that way. So it was a shocker to me, I guess, this early in the season, and then to see the amount of points put up and how it went down. I felt like it was one of those games where it just needed to happen. This is the shakeup that we're going to see throughout the season. I feel like
You're right.
overall, anyway.
You're right.
So, I mean,
And
it just had
I'll
to
say
happen.
this. I'll say this for that particular game. There's good news and there's bad news.
Hmm.
And it's both for USC. The good news is it was a cross division game, so it doesn't count against you in the South Division. So you
True.
still have a chance to possibly maybe get a rematch with either Stanford or Oregon in the Pac-12 championship, assuming you take care of business from here on out.
Right.
The
You got to win
bad
it out at
news
this point.
is, yeah, the bad news is, how does this make you look now if you were trying to contend for the college playoff?
Mhm.
Because as of right now, still only 4 spots. And you made a good case in week one. Now you're in week two, and you get a cross division game with your traditional rival, and you get hammered.
Hmm.
It- Now, and here's the thing that I'm not gonna say bugs me, but what I will say is you were one of the two teams picked to win not only the division, but you were picked to win the conference. The other team is Oregon because Oregon's now a heavy favorite after beating
Hmm.
Ohio State. So these two teams were picked to meet in the Pac-12 championship. How does this make you look now, knowing you one got to win out and two you got to hope for luck because you know Stanford consistent. They haven't been a national championship contender in a while, but they've been consistent. They've come
Mhm.
across good Oregon teams. They've come across that slippery ass Cal game. You know, it happens. It's Cal. And then, you know, you're going to be in a situation where you're gonna need some luck. Like literally, you're gonna need luck because your next 5 games in order go at Washington State, Oregon State, at Colorado, and Utah comes to your house, and then you got the matchup on October 23rd with
Mhm.
Notre Dame. Notre Dame's coming off 2 tough games already that they
Mhm.
escaped with. So, battle tested might be something that you're going to hear about Notre Dame. And then for whatever reason, you got a slippery game at the end against a very good UCLA team and a very good BYU team.
Mhm. It's not gonna be easy.
It's not.
Not gonna be easy.
It's not. And the fact that you beat up the Mountain West champion San Jose State Spartans.
Mhm.
Yay. But let's look at reality here. They did the split between FBS and FCS for a reason. It's because these FCS teams are good, but they're not on your level yet. Keep in mind, I said yet, because as we saw last night, Jacksonville State FCS beat Florida State FBS. So don't act like it can't happen.
And then here's one for you too, Mel. Last year's Super Bowl had probably, let's see, I would say the second. Yeah. So there was one conference that was represented mostly in the Super Bowl last year with the Chiefs and between Tampa Bay and all of that. But they said that was the one of the highest representations of FCS schools in a
Mm-hmm.
Super Bowl last year, right?
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that
And
at all.
and that's the difference maker right there. Because the thing is, like, yes, people know of the different championships won at this level. At the same time, you got to look at it like, okay, at the next level, who's representing and what's going on there, you know? And there was a lot of FCS schools in that game, right? So don't sleep on them. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Folks out there cannot sleep on these teams, man. The talent is everywhere, right? Like you said, they're not there yet, but they're getting there.
And they
They're getting there.
fighting.
They
Win or
fighting
lose,
hard.
they're fighting. They sick of y'all shit up in the FBS.
And they come hard every single time they play them games, man. They're not looking to just get dog walked like that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Why would I mean, yeah, the money for that game is decent. It's great, but
yeah, it is.
who still wants to be on that team that gets pounded on by Ohio State every year?
Yep.
Like, don't get me wrong. I love the Buckeyes, but I'd rather see a game against Oregon and Ohio State lose and then bounce back earlier in the season than to see them beat up on Hawaii and then get to the Michigan game and shit a goose egg.
Yeah. Yep. And that's
Like
been known
that's
to
I,
happen
I
before,
want to
man.
see exactly,
You
exactly.
know.
So I'd rather see these games because now these programs that lose, it's not a oh we're good. Yeah, you good because you beat up on a tune-up team. You literally beat up on a tune-up team. Show up when it matters. Ohio State didn't show up when it mattered, but I'm pretty sure this is a learning curve for them. True
Hmm.
freshman quarterback. Either I think he's a red shirt or a true freshman, one of the two. Either way, freshman is in his title.
Hmm.
Freshman quarterback, young defense that struggled against a decent running team because we all know Oregon don't run the ball that much, not like they used to.
Right.
Uh, I'm I'm with you on this. Where I think these games are needed sorely, and I'm waiting to see who bounces back first because that'll tell you how the rest of the season's gonna go. Like Michigan beat up on Washington.
Hmm.
Yeah, I get it. It's Washington, but guess what? How often is Washington really dominant nowadays? It ain't often.
Nah, absolutely not. All right.
So show me when they get in the Big Ten conference play and they got to see Wisconsin or Minnesota, and let's see how they do then.
Now, here's the last thing I have for you in this segment. I want you to look at week 3 for college football, FBS. Give me 3 games you feel crazy prediction that could possibly end in an upset.
All right, I'm going to that right now. So you said
Because I
week
love,
three.
yep, this current week coming up for week 3.
All
Three
right.
games out of that week. Crazy prediction that you feel could possibly be an upset.
Hmm.
Just a feeling. You don't have to say why or nothing like that, because it's just like how I felt about, Cincy today.
Oh man, we're gonna talk about that one too.
So I
We're
just
gonna
want
talk
to hear
about
it
that one.
because, and I'm talking like something you just don't expect people to think or to see that could happen. Because I got my three. I
All
got my
right.
three.
As soon as my computer stop acting retarded.
So, well, in the meantime, while you're doing that, I'll give you 3 that I have for it. I'll do that. Here's the first one that I have, right? Crazy prediction. Probably won't happen, but I feel like it's possible. So, let's start with this one.
Hmm.
Tulane upsets Ole Miss.
Hmm.
They have been scrappy as hell this season. Scrappy. They should have beat Oklahoma. They should have.
They should have. I agree
40 to
with you on that one.
35.
They should have.
They was coming back, bruh. And
Hmm.
then they pounced on the team that they went against this past week. So they snapped back from that Oklahoma loss. Like, look, we only was down by 5. We coming back this week. We're gonna smack them. And now we're getting ready to play against Ole Miss. Here's our
Okay.
next
Tulane.
opportunity.
Okay. So
Tulane.
Tulane and Ole Miss.
Yup. So Tulane. All right. Next one I got. Now, I don't see it as an upset, but that's how they talk when it comes to the rankings. BYU beating Arizona State. Okay.
Well, you know what? Before you go any further, according to this, both teams are going in ranked. So I could see that.
For the
I can
Tulane game,
see. Yeah, I no, I can see Arizona State losing to BYU. BYU's got a really good team. I don't think people
they do.
understand that.
They
Not only
do.
that, not only that, BYU plays year after year. BYU plays one of the hardest schedules in the country because for those that
Oh, yeah.
don't know, BYU is still independent.
Yep. They sure
So I
are.
can see that. I can see Sparky getting cooled off.
Hmm.
So
So I got that
Ole
going on.
Miss,
And
Ole
here's one
Miss.
that it just pains my soul to even give them the time of day, especially with what I'm freaking wearing right now.
If you say Georgia loses to South Carolina, I don't want you. You might
No,
as well just
no, not that. Not that. I'm saying Auburn beats Penn State.
Auburn beats Penn State.
Auburn beats Penn State. And
That is a
I loathe Auburn.
wait.
That is
Well,
an old
here
rivalry. Old.
here's the question. Where is this game going to be at? Because that'll tell you how this game's going to go.
Now here's the thing. It's at Beaver Stadium. And that's why it's a crazy prediction.
It's not a crazy prediction. I honestly think that the fact that this game is not neutral and it's at Happy Valley, I think that this gives Penn State the edge. But I would not be surprised if Auburn pulls out the win. I would not. So since you said that, I'm gonna throw my three out. Three games I could
Okay.
see turning into a. I'm gonna give you four because I saw one that I didn't pay attention to earlier that I could
Okay.
possibly see.
Okay.
All right,
What
the
you got?
first one I know it's not gonna happen, but it could. There's a very
Mm.
slim chance. Nebraska beating Oklahoma.
Ooh, ooh, ooh.
That's the one that I don't know why. I don't know
Mm.
why, but considering this is a traditional Big 12 matchup,
The Big 12
Scott
Ghost, man.
Frost, Scott Frost was a part of this rivalry and
Mm.
does own several wins over Oklahoma,
Mm.
especially in 2001. Remember when they went to the national championship and got beat on by
Mm.
Miami? So I could see that
Ooh,
happening. I can't. The line is 22.
man.
The line for is OU by 22. But if Scott Frost can have this team ready to play, I don't see why this would not be an upset.
Ooh.
My
Man, you
second
hit me in
one,
the gut with that one, man.
yeah, man.
That was a
My
gut
second
shot,
one,
bro.
my second one is Michigan State losing to Miami. And Michigan State's coming in with a very solid squad this year. They handled Northwestern.
Hmm.
They beat up whoever they played this past week. I could see Miami looking at this game because remember, back in the day, Miami used to go up to East Lansing every once in a while, and they got a
Hmm.
couple wins out of it. So, to my knowledge, I don't think Michigan State's gotten a win over Miami in, if not a long time, if ever. So,
Okay.
I could see Miami losing to Michigan State, but I expect Miami to win this one. The
Hmm.
line, they got Miami by 5, 6, 6.5. Okay, they got Miami by 6.5, but the way Michigan State's been playing, I think they're getting ready for Big Ten play, and I think they're going to make a play for the Big Ten title game.
Mm. Makes sense.
The third one, I don't know why I'm saying this. Probably crazy for it, and you're probably going to laugh at it, but I could see Northern Illinois beating Michigan.
Hey,
Remember, Northern Illinois used to be a bracket buster, not a bracket buster, but a BCS buster.
that's
Remember
true.
that. Remember
That's
that. They
true.
used to be a BCS buster. So it's not going to happen. And Michigan should take care of this. As
Hmm.
much as I hate saying Michigan, they should take care of this. But if Northern Illinois turns into a BCS buster, it's a wrap. The you know what? Okay, after this one, I got one more.
Okay.
Purdue. I I think Purdue's sick of Notre Dame, and I think all of those close games catch up to Notre Dame. And this season, this week, they fall to Purdue. You can't keep winning tight games like that. You can't.
Look, the fact that you said that, it makes sense to me because we know Purdue will randomly get that one game that they
Yeah.
shouldn't have got
And they get it
and
anyway.
have you like, oh, how did they do it? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And this could be the one. That
Yeah.
makes perfect sense to me. Oh my
And
gosh. Well, I
and
didn't even look at
like I said, you can't keep winning tight games like this. It's at some point it's gonna catch up to you. I think he catches up to Notre Dame sooner rather than later because later on in the season that schedule gets tough. So if you was gonna lose, lose now.
it. Yeah, man.
And then don't worry about it. And lastly, I honestly see uh I see Florida
Hmm.
beating Alabama this year. Remember, this is an SEC title game rematch from last year that came really close.
True.
It was a really close game. I think most people forget Florida's returning most of those starters on offense and defense. And, you know, outside of Miami, Miami wasn't even close. So,
True.
you know, let's look at reality. The winner of this is going to the SEC title game. If
Yeah. Yeah. That's yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean, that's how
because
it's set up right now. Yeah.
yeah, because isn't Alabama in the SEC West division this
Yeah. Bama's in the West with
and
LSU and
Florida's
A
in
and
the
M.
East. So
Florida's in the East
whoever
with Georgia.
wins,
Yeah.
yeah, so whoever wins this game is guaranteed to go to the SEC title game. And I'm not saying Florida would beat Georgia, but that they have a huge case, should things play out weirdly like they have before.
That's true
But
too.
if Bama wins, they're going to coast, with the exception of the Iron Bowl. There's nobody over there in the West. This is not. There's nobody over there. So if Bama wins, they coast. If Florida wins, it's gonna be a two-way battle between the Bulldogs and the Gators. But after last year, I'm not surprised Florida and Bama are meeting this early in a top 25 matchup. And I think at home,
That's right.
Florida
It's at
could get it
Florida.
done. I think
Death
Florida can
Valley.
get it done.
It's going down in Gatorland.
Yeah, in the swamp, I think Florida could get it done.
That's gonna be something else, man. It's gonna be hype. I know that. That's gonna
Yeah,
be a hype game, boy. 3:30
yeah.
game too.
Yeah, speaking of hype, we move to the big league
Oh
for our
man,
last segment of the show.
this is
And
painful.
because we in the big league, we're gonna start off with the marquee game of the night.
Man,
The Browns and the Chiefs in a rematch of last year's playoff game, which the Browns should have won due to a bullshit call and just a bullshit call that wasn't made. And the fact that it wasn't made, the Browns came in with bad intentions. Too bad they couldn't keep those intentions intact, and they end up losing 33-29. What was your thoughts on this game?
for this one, I thought that they played a solid first half. Um, they were very aggressive coming out, and it showed. When they ran up 20 something points real quick, and I kept thinking to myself, like, man, okay, you got it 22-10 at the half. You're going in there, you got a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. Only thing you had to worry about was the fact that, okay, whether or not, Jedrick Willis will be back in the game, which he was ruled out. So that was unfortunate because that's been a huge part of the run offense as well as that blind side protection
Mm-hmm.
for Mayfield. You would shout out to him because he played right tackle his whole college career, so the jump to the left is not an easy adjustment. So he's been doing his thing. That was a good pick, that I definitely made a bad call on last year, so I'll admit that. With regards to how it panned out, though, I felt like the momentum just shifted because, when Harrison got ejected, which I'm like, okay, I felt like it was something that whether the coach started or not, there should have been some kind of like offset penalty thing or something. They just
Right.
straight up ejected him. They said they'll probably end up getting fines and all that kind of stuff. And the chief coach gets to walk free. Not sure if I agree with
And
that 100%.
I don't agree with that at all. I don't because
Terrible.
if you look at the replay, they said Tony Romo spotted that Harrison was stepping on a Chiefs player, and I don't even think Rodney knew that Chiefs player was still on the ground. Number one, number
No,
two, number two. If you're a coach, your job is to separate. You straight up push this man, and it's on camera. So
Yep.
if this plays out like the Myles Garrett Mason Rudolph thing again, I don't think I agree with this. Okay, if you're gonna fine Harrison, fine, cool. That coach better get fined too, because that coach instigated that. And
Yep.
it's on camera. It was on national TV. This was a 425 game. All 425 games in the NFL are considered prime time. So
Mm-hmm.
that was a prime time game. Number one. Number two, national TV. Everybody saw that. So
Everybody.
if Harrison's gonna get a fine and get ejected, that coach need to be fined too. At least
Agree with
20
that.
grand. At least
And
20
here's
grand.
what and here's what got me with that, man. Because the first thing I thought was, okay, he obviously was playing like a big part of the, passing defense. He was a part of it last year. Came in, kept that job or whatever. Um, and to me, I was like, okay, that's a big piece that's missing. And part of the reason why Mahomes was having some issues downfield. Because the first
Yeah,
half, Mahomes was not doing that well at all. Statistically, he was
it
not doing
wasn't.
well at all, had no touchdowns yet. And the issue there was he just couldn't find guys. Couldn't find guys at all, and him trying to do some big plays that he normally would do, they just weren't there, man. The coverage was there. And the only touchdown that was scored was the one that he ran in himself, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So it's like, okay, we got to, clamp on these guys. That happens, and then you get the Chubb fumble. I think from the Chubb fumble that they recovered by the Chiefs, I think that just turned the momentum in the
I
game.
thought it
After
was
that, you
I
started to
thought it was the
see,
botch punt, to be honest, because that gave the Chiefs great field
okay,
position.
yeah,
And
yeah, that's true too. That's true too.
but
But
you
like,
know what? Outside of Patrick Mahomes, we all know it's very hard to win in Arrowhead.
yeah,
Period. I just thought that in this situation, if you're gonna get down on the player, you need to get on the coach too, because you know Rodney Harris, or not Rodney Harris, but Harrison is not that kind of player to just go attacking people on the sideline for no
no,
reason.
nope,
And it's like I said, it's on camera. This coach pushes him, and he pushes the coach back. What are y'all looking at that y'all can't see? The coach is sitting right there. I really don't think he was even paying attention to that Chiefs player on the ground that he apparently intentionally stepped on.
true.
And if you're gonna say that, look at the whole play. Just like the Mason Rudolph and Miles Garrett fight. Look at the whole play. Does Miles Garrett know that ball is gone when he makes initial contact? No, he don't.
Nope.
When he hits the ground, what is Mason Rudolph trying to do? Tear that man head off. In that situation, I'm gonna clock your ass with your own helmet too. In this situation on the Chiefs sideline, which is I think played a part in it, on the Chiefs sideline, you're sitting there, you're talking, you're jaw jacking, you trying to move, your teammates are trying to back you up, coach is trying to back their players up, and all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, a coach shoves you for whatever reason. I don't care what was said. You shoved this man, and he shoved you back. What did you think was gonna happen?
That's exactly it, man. You hit the
What
nail
did
on
you
the
think was
head.
gonna happen? Yeah,
You know what I mean? And
beef.
then
And Roger Goodell needs to do better at paying attention to the fucking film because everybody in America saw that. Everybody in
exactly it,
America
and
saw that.
just seeing how well they were doing up to that point, because like, okay, yeah, they had two big turnovers, unfortunately, but seeing what the offense was able to accomplish, and then you
Mm-hmm.
figure the late decision to not have OBJ play today. That was different because that wasn't even something they were talking about throughout the whole week. It just happened today, and we're like, oh, okay. So he's not playing. Okay, cool. And then them to still put up 457 yards of offense, right? They averaged 8.2 yards per play on Kansas City, right? They converted 3 out of 4 fourth downs,
Which is
and they
big.
end up right, huge, right? And here's another one for you. They were 4 for 4 in red zone attempts.
So that
Four
means they
for
got
four.
down there and handled their business. And for
That's what
those
I'm
wondering,
saying,
and for those
man.
wondering,
Like,
4 for 4 means all 4 trips to the red zone they came away with a touchdown, not a field
some kind
goal, a touchdown.
of a touchdown, man. A touch. Like, it was a totally different team today. It was a
Yeah.
different team, especially on the offensive side. It was just sitting there like they were driving. Every single drive that Cleveland had today was 75 yards or more. Every last one when they scored a touchdown, 75 yards or more. They were moving that ball every
with
freaking
with
time they
effort.
scored.
Yeah.
every time, man. And to see it end up like that, I was like, dang, okay, yeah, y'all made another jump. You know what I'm saying? But it's just those critical moments, man, that you happen, and you can't give
Yeah.
Kansas City any opportunity at all. They're going to eat that up every time. That's how they're coached. So it sucked to see that. It was really hard to, stomach that one, but I'm glad it was them and not some other team, you know. And my thing too is looking at that. I kind of was laughing because I'm like, wouldn't it be crazy if with the Bengals and then with Pittsburgh and then with Cleveland and then possibly Baltimore Monday night if all four teams had won the first week. You know what I'm
Man, that
saying?
would have
What
been
that would have done for the division,
that
right?
would have been crazy. That would have been
So
crazy.
there's that. But before we jump into that next game, because it's just sitting with me weird. You know what I'm saying? Seeing how these other teams did not fare as well, right? So I know it was hard to see like Cleveland lose that game, but did they lose like the Titans did?
Oh
Did they
man.
lose like the Packers did?
Hell,
You
did they lose
know,
like the Lions did?
like the Lions did, bro.
Because
Bro, like,
at one point, it was like 41 to 13 or something like that, man.
oh
I was like,
man,
what's going on?
let's talk about how the Packers only got 3 points.
Hey, man.
Three, three. Mister Aaron Rodgers. 'Cause here's the thing, man. It was such a spectacle all off season, right? Everybody's like, oh, he's holding out, and he restructured his contract, and they got
It
Randall
wasn't
Cobb
that
to
he
come
was
back,
it
and
wasn't that
blah
he was
blah blah blah
holding out,
blah.
he wanted out.
Right, but then here's the thing: he missed training camp. I don't
Yeah,
care
he did.
how good you are. I do not care how good you are. You missed that much time in preparation. It showed
That's a whole
today.
month.
It showed today. It showed. I get it.
Yeah,
You're
it
Aaron
did.
Rodgers, great. But when Jameis Winston comes in, tosses 5 touchdowns, and you can't get a touchdown in the air, and you're Aaron Rodgers. Look, man, I'm just throwing out here what I saw. I'm just throwing
I
out what I
get it.
saw,
I get it.
right?
I
This
get
is
it.
the post Breeze era, okay,
Yeah.
for a team that doesn't even have a home field right now because of Hurricane Ida,
Mm,
and you lost 38 to 3.
mm,
38
mm.
to 3, 3, 3. Look, man, I can't say that I expected the Packers to win this week, but I can definitely say I expected them to have at least 3 touchdowns today. Something. But
You had
three
it right. They
points?
had it. You right. They had three. It was just them 3 points that you just said.
But that whole thing
So
messed my whole preseason like prediction up. Like I'm all the
so
way
you
like, what?
oh man, we all screwed up because I thought they was gonna win this game too. Jameis is the 30 for 30 man.
God, man. Hey, but you know what? Having a year behind Breeze to like really ask those
That helps.
questions, see how he does his thing. And it's something that you and I talked about. We said this is the best thing that could have happened to Winston. Yes, that 30 for 30 was jacked up. It happened, whatever. But as a former Heisman winner, as somebody who is, coming to this league and saying, okay, I am a veteran. I've been around long enough, right, to be considered someone who can still start. I come into New Orleans, a decent team with a decent coach and a decent staff, and learning
And a
behind a Hall
decent
of Fame
offense.
QB. You know what I'm
And a
saying?
decent
It's a great
offense.
situation, right? A decent
Yeah.
offense, man. You learn behind this cat, and you're like, okay, I know I'm that dude coming out next season, man. I'm gonna show y'all. And it was cool to see that week one, man, to see his team have
Yeah.
his back, and to have them guys come out and play the way that they were playing before when Breeze was there. That was great.
Now,
Hats
not
off to
only
them for that.
problem not only problem he got now is how do you deal with Tom Brady being in the same division?
Twice a year too. Oh Lord, good luck, Winston. Good luck with that. Okay. Which here's
Yep.
another thing about Brady. Since you brought it up, why these cats got the easiest schedule in the NFL this year,
Because they won the Super Bowl and it's Tom Brady.
man? Yeah, but I saw
Just
it. And I
leave
was
it
like,
alone, bro.
oh.
Just
But you
leave
know
it
what?
alone.
And this is a weird thing to say out loud for me, but Pittsburgh having the hardest schedule or second hardest schedule this year, to see them pull that off against the Bills.
Oh man, I wasn't even gonna
Wow.
talk about it. I was just gonna,
No,
you
I'm
know,
gonna go ahead and give that props, man, because I
uh,
was like,
do
"Ooh,
I
week
was gonna
one,
do the
that's how
Rob
it
Van
goes."
Dam, Steeler Nation.
Hey, man, you gotta live it up, man. Because that's not one of the games I had picked, and I was just like, coming out week one, make you think, okay, all right,
But
we'll
you
see
know
what
what?
happens.
You know what? In all reality, historically, the Steelers don't really do bad against New York teams.
That's true.
Whether it's the Jets, it's the Bills, or the Giants, they don't really they don't really have too many problems with them historically. Now,
Yeah.
New England, okay, the Colts, yeah, but historically with the New York teams, they don't really have too much problems.
Hey,
Um,
and I'm glad you said that because I want to point out something to people. So when we had our interviews with the different players that were going to the Hall of Fame class this year from last year, and also coaches, the call I was on with Bill Cowher, this just kind of proves his point because he was saying, okay, there's a lot of people writing off, Pittsburgh and saying it's maybe the first year in a while where they, don't go above 500 or something like that. He said, and this was from his mouth, he said that Roethlisberger is going to have a better year than people think.
hmm
And when he said that, granted, I am no Bill Cowher, will never be on that level, but I had to mute my phone and I was like, Coach, okay, respect. At the same time, like, I didn't see it. After this game, I'm like, okay, maybe you're onto something, right? Because you coached the man, you know his edge, you've even seen him at his highest, his lowest. Okay, I get that. And a lot of us were like, this dude don't need to be in the league no more. It's done, whatever. Why is he still out there? Seeing what happened this past week was like, okay, maybe Cowher is seeing something I'm not seeing, or a lot of people are not seeing.
exactly. What
You
does
know what
he
I'm
know that
saying?
we don't know?
What does he know that we don't know? But that's why that man going in the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
So I would say be on the lookout for them, man. Maybe it's going to be something different that we're not, hip to, or there's a dynamic that he's aware of or that he's seen in
And
his
we
end
ain't
or his
paying attention
perspective, and
to.
we ain't paying attention to. So it could be a tighter race than we think for the AFC North Crown, right? I feel like, and this is something that is going to sound crazy, I think Cincinnati's better than what people thought this season. I also feel like the Ravens may be the ones taking the back seat this year. Maybe they're
That's
the
a
ones
strong
that end up falling to
possibility.
fourth place, which wasn't a preseason prediction at all, right? Anything could happen, man. It's
Yeah.
wide open right now. And the way it's looking
Speaking
this
of
first week, whew,
speaking of
oh
anything
Lord.
can happen, your prediction actually came true today.
Oh, the Cincinnati and the
Yes,
Vikings.
I was,
Oh man.
dude. I was so I was astounded. Like I couldn't believe. Like honestly, when you
I
sent
don't
me
know
the
where this
text
comes from.
earlier, I just looked at it and laughed. I'm like, man, this motherfucker tripping. Jamar Jamar Chase can't catch herpes, and he's sitting up here talking about the Bengals is gonna beat the Vikings, and then lo and behold, they go to the update during the game, and I see the Bengals kicking the field goal and winning in overtime. I was like,
Crazy,
get the
right?
fuck out of here.
And it's funny
Oh
because
man.
they had the crappiest run defense last year. Partly of which, I know Atkins was hurt and they had some other guys that were kind of like, busted up or whatever. And, the opt outs from COVID and whatnot. So seeing this year and those guys coming back, and we knew the passing defense was already kind of there. So I was like, well, Dalvin Cook's been a monster for the offense. Would they be able to repeat that this year? I think people kind of figured some of that out. But I just had a feeling. I'm like, it's just different over there this year. It's
Yeah,
just
it
different.
is. It
And
is.
Burrow coming back on
And
a mission, man.
and I give you mad credit for this prediction because I did not see this coming. If you'd have told me 2 weeks ago the Bengals was gonna beat the Vikings, I'd have told you shut your face. But looking at it today, you might actually be on to something because that I expected that to be a very tough game for Cincinnati, and I
Hmm.
expected that to be a tough game for Joe Burrow coming back.
Yeah.
And Joe Burrow handled himself, and Jamar Chase actually surprised the hell out of me with 100 yards and a touchdown. So something you
Hmm.
saw was on point about that game. So I'm gonna give you that one.
I will say this, man. I was very nervous about, Joe Burrow's return only because I kept thinking like, okay, did they address the offensive line situation? And on top of
Mm-mm.
that, you know, he has a very high IQ at his
Very
position.
high.
And it's something that we hadn't seen, especially at the collegiate level. It was just like, what is this man doing? Like, will this translate in the NFL? But to do it at that level and to do it in the way that he did, it was just like, wow. Okay, and see how
Hmm.
much he grew just last year before he got hurt.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that alone had me thinking like, okay, here's a guy that I know is going to be a great QB for their franchise. If you put the right people around him and you protect this dude, he's going to get you where you need to be, And I didn't think that was going to click just yet with him and Chase. I felt like it's hard to be able to say, okay, I've had a year in the league. This is your first year in. I've adjusted to the speed of the game. You're still adjusting to it. It's a different dynamic from when we were both, at LSU. But to have that now and to see what they're doing there, and also see how it played out for Tua today
Yeah.
with the Dolphins, right? Those little experiments are showing that they actually work. Because I was a skeptic.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, just because you did it at the previous level means it's going to translate, right? I don't know. But something's happening. I don't know. I like what I see.
Uh,
We'll see what
yeah.
happens as the
Yeah.
season
I,
goes
I do
on.
too.
But
This was an interesting week one. A very
yeah,
interesting week one.
yeah, it was,
All
man.
right. Before we close it out, Monday night, Ravens and Raiders. Who you got?
I'm going to go with the Raiders.
Really?
I'm going with the Raiders. I feel like the psyche of the Ravens is low right now. I don't know what that rushing attack's going to look like. The top two
Mhm.
guys who you had, they're gone for the season.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
not having Peters out there because Peters and Humphreys is a problem for teams when it comes to that passing game.
Very true. Very true.
You get rid of one of them, that's a big hole to fill. And Derek Carr is not a bad QB. He's
You're
not.
right. You're
And the
right.
last time these teams played, it was a good game. So I think that with them traveling to Vegas, they can pull it off.
You know what? With all that going for the Raiders, I still got to go with the Ravens, and here's why.
Okay.
The Ravens still have a good enough front seven to get
They do.
pressure on Derek Carr and to get hits on Derek Carr. And we all know Derek Carr is not mobile. Not
Nice.
saying he can't run. I'm saying he's not going to run if he doesn't have to. There is a difference.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I think that front seven makes up for the lack of depth at the secondary positions in corners and safeties. Now, I don't think this rushing attack is going to have a drop off for one reason, and it's two words: Lamar Jackson. Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson is clearly faster than any linebacker the Raiders have right now. And we all know when Lamar Jackson gets loose, it's hard to bring him down. So if Lamar Jackson stays upright and Lamar Jackson makes enough throws to keep these linebackers off his ass, I think the Ravens win this maybe by 5 points. Field goal to five
And,
points.
with you saying that, I think the edge here and what could change the game is the run on both ends. Because looking at the reports right now, first of all, Richie Incognito's been ruled out. So it's going to be John Simpson stepping in for him, the fourth rounder from last year, who played 7 games. He'll start. So that's going to be a problem. Josh Jacobs has an illness. He's questionable. They have no idea if he's going to play. That's a big hole to fill if he doesn't start. Now, on the Ravens end, of course, they lost their 2 top running backs, and then there's a matter of the one guy on defense, but they do have some new wide receivers. Sammy Watkins is out there.
And keep in mind,
A couple other
Le'Veon
guys.
Bell's with them too.
Le'Veon Bell has been upgraded from the practice squad, so he'll be out there carrying the rock. It'll be interesting to see what they do. I don't know, man. It could go either way, like you said. I like the 5-point difference. I think that is very accurate because with me saying that the Raiders could win this, it's not going to be no blowout. You know,
Oh, of
it's
course,
not going to be like some
but
long stretch of whatever. I don't think it's going to be a high scoring game either. I think it'll be like a whoever
I
wins.
think it'll
maybe
be in.
like a 20.
I think it'll be in the 20s. I'm giving it 28-20. I'm giving 28-25 to the Ravens. But like I said, that front seven plays a huge. It's a huge difference in the drop off between the Raiders front seven and the Ravens front seven is a whole lot different. Like the Ravens front seven is good enough to get to the quarterback and possibly hurt him. And if Derek Carr don't move, Derek Carr getting hurt. So that was why I give the edge to the Ravens because you don't see that kind of front seven with the Raiders. You haven't seen that kind of front seven with the Raiders since, I don't know, the Super Bowl year.
Yeah, that's true too.
So I'm giving that's the only area of the game that I give to the Ravens outright, and it does play a difference in my book. So we'll see. But you got the Raiders, I got the Ravens. We'll be monitoring that tomorrow night, and we'll see how it goes.
For sure, man. Definitely.
All right. That concludes this episode of 4th and 15. Please don't forget, Wednesday night, we will be doing, once again, the Senate League Game of the Week pre-show. We'll have the coach of Collinwood, Greg Wheeler, and the coach of Glenville, Coach Ginn himself. I just hate saying Glenville. You already know. But that will be the game of the week this week, the Wood versus the Ville. So be sure to check that out on our YouTube channel. Go on over there and like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also check out our written content on our website, 216sportsnetwork.blogspot.com. Oh yeah, I forgot about this while we doing this. The Senate League Game of the Week, Player of the Week for the John Adams Lincoln West game goes to Darian Reed, quarterback of John Adams. He scored 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing and 1 passing, with a total of, I believe it was 140 yards or something like that. I'm pretty sure I'm close to the number. I ain't got my notes with me, but he earned it, Player of the Week. So congratulations to Darian Reed, and awesome. We'll be seeing you soon this week with your award. Man, he was on fire too, man. 2 runs, threw a wide open pass. It was like he was on fire. John Adams looked good this week, but it's Lincoln West. But you know, anytime you have a performance like that, you got to get credit for it.
That's awesome, man. Shout out to the young man for doing that, man. I love to hear about guys striving, trying to make sure that they're doing what they can for their team, and most importantly, representing their school, man, to the fullest. So hats off to the young man for that performance this past Friday.
Indeed. All right, folks. Thank y'all for watching. And like I said, don't forget to check those out and keep it touch with our fans. You can stay up to par with what we got going on. So for 4th and 15, I'm Mel. That's Smooth. Peace.